This mysterious story begins with a woman named Kate, who was traveling with her son, Jesse, to her parents' house. Kate's parents were named Jake and Bonnie, and they lived right in the middle of a forest, far away from the city. After so many years, Kate was finally taking her son Jesse to visit his grandparents. Jesse really enjoyed hunting with his grandfather Jake. Meanwhile, at the farmhouse, Jake and Bonnie were eagerly waiting for their daughter and grandson to arrive. In just a short while, they reached the place. Jake and Bonnie were overjoyed to see their grandson. Jake immediately told Jesse to get ready, as they were going out for a hunt. So, Kate began preparing food for everyone so they could eat along the way. Everything was going on in a completely normal way, but Jake had no idea that this time, if they entered the forest, they might not return. Something mysterious was lurking in the forest, something they never could have imagined. Jake, along with his grandson Jesse, packed up all the supplies and set out to hunt in the forest. They were planning to hunt deer. Jake had been doing this for years and knew the area well. He didn't think it was dangerous. After walking for a while, the two of them reached a spot, and Jesse spotted a deer. Jake told his grandson to aim at it. Jesse used the rifle he was carrying and fired directly at the deer. His aim was perfect, and the deer was wounded. Jake was extremely impressed by his grandson's shot. They both went to check on the deer's dead body, which had fallen a little ahead. As they continued, Jesse started to feel a bit hungry. He took out the sandwich his mother had packed for him and began eating. Jake, on the other hand, kept moving forward slowly, focused on finding the deer. Jesse had fallen slightly behind his grandfather. While Jesse was eating the sandwich, he suddenly heard some sounds coming from the bushes nearby. He thought it must be a small animal, so he pulled off a bit of his sandwich and offered it in that direction. But whatever creature was hiding in the bushes got scared and ran away after seeing this. Now, Jesse and Jake had become separated from each other. Meanwhile, Jesse had been following that strange sound deeper into the forest. During his walk, he came across a strange structure. It was actually a set of stairs, right in the middle of the forest. The strange thing was, there was no house or broken-down building around. So what were those stairs doing there? Even more curious, the stairs looked completely intact, as if they had just been built recently. Wanting to know more, Jesse walked a little closer to them. The whole thing felt a bit creepy. Suddenly, Jesse noticed that someone was behind the stairs. That person was running back and forth, as if trying to attract Jesse's attention. Jesse climbed up the stairs and followed the sound behind them. Everything seemed fine until suddenly, a pair of hands appeared and grabbed Jesse, pulling him inside. Back in the forest, Jake heard Jesse scream, so he ran toward the sound in a panic. Within a few moments, Jake reached the place with the stairs. He looked around, trying to find his grandson. Then he realized the screams were coming from behind the stairs. Something was pulling Jesse inside. Jake immediately rushed to save him and began firing his gun in that direction. But whatever unknown entity was there, it pulled not only Jesse but also Jake inside. In other words, both of them had now gone missing from that place, under completely mysterious circumstances. After that moment, there was no trace of either of them. They had completely disappeared. And as time passed, several years went by. Many travelers began visiting that same forested mountain for trekking. Now we are introduced to two tourists named Josh and Nick, who had come to trek on that mountain. They gathered their gear and went to a nearby shop to buy a few more supplies. Josh and Nick were also joined by a few other friends who were on their way there. Their main goal was to enjoy the trip and experience an amazing mountain trek. As soon as Josh and Nick reached the area, they had a conversation with the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper clearly warned them not to enter the forest during the red moon period. He said that many people had mysteriously gone missing in the forest during that time. Josh ignored these warnings completely, but Nick noticed that many missing person posters were pinned up nearby. That meant there might be some truth to the shopkeeper's words. But by now, their plans were already made. They couldn't just cancel everything at the last minute. So, Josh and Nick gathered all the items and headed to their next location. In a little while, two of their friends arrived, Jordan and Rebecca. They were a lovely couple, but along with them came a very irresponsible friend named Dig. None of the others liked Dig much because he never took anything seriously. This behavior had started irritating everyone. But since Dig had already arrived, there was no point in sending him back. So all the friends decided to move forward together. Their mountain trekking adventure had officially begun, as they moved steadily upward through the forested areas. None of them had any idea about the terrifying events that were awaiting them ahead. As they moved ahead, they saw a small hut. The hut looked strangely built, and when they went inside, no one was there. All the women in the group felt uncomfortable, so they decided not to stay and kept moving forward. Among them, Rebecca was the most excited. She loved exploring unfamiliar places. But at this point, Rebecca became extremely tired and sat down to drink some water. Because of this short break, the rest of the group moved slightly ahead. Rebecca also began feeling a bit dizzy because she hadn't eaten anything. She usually didn't feel hungry while traveling. Now, while Rebecca was sitting under a tree drinking water, a mysterious woman appeared, walking toward her. As the woman came closer, her feet looked utterly disgusting. When Rebecca slowly looked up, the woman's face was terrifying. She was about to lunge at Rebecca, but Rebecca quickly screamed, calling for help from her friends. Everyone came rushing to help Rebecca. Seeing her in such a state, they were all completely shocked. Rebecca was crying a lot and kept saying that there was a strange woman at that place who even tried to attack her. After hearing this, the others didn't quite believe her. They felt that Rebecca was just feeling weak and must have been hallucinating. They were all feeling a bit uneasy, especially because Rebecca's behavior had changed suddenly. But they had to complete their trek, so they kept moving forward. Night had fallen, and everyone began setting up their tents. All of them stayed awake, taking turns standing guard. But Dig, as usual, was completely careless. He pulled out a drink and got drunk, not caring at all that they were in the middle of a forest and had just witnessed some very strange and disturbing events. Josh sat keeping watch and let people sleep one by one as they grew tired. Dig, on the other hand, went straight into his tent to rest. Slowly, one by one, everyone drifted off to sleep, and midnight arrived. Suddenly, we see that someone is opening Dig's tent. Whoever it was grabbed his leg and began to drag him out. But as he began to feel physical pain, he snapped out of his dream and woke up. When he opened his eyes, he saw a terrifying creature in front of him. The creature had sharp teeth and razor-like claws. It immediately began to attack Dig brutally. Dig screamed at the top of his lungs, begging for help. The rest of the group heard his cries and rushed to help him. Josh and Nick were the first to reach the spot. They found Dig's tent and his shoes, but there was no sign of Dig himself. The women panicked upon seeing the scene, especially because there was blood all around. Jordan suspected it might have been the work of a wild animal, but what kind of animal, they had no idea. Rebecca started insisting that they should run in the opposite direction to find a way out of the forest. But Josh refused to leave without Dig. He said they had to find him no matter what. Rebecca, who was the organizer of the entire trip, stood there speechless. Rebecca had even forgotten to bring the map, which meant she couldn't properly figure out the directions or the way out of the forest. So now, Josh and the rest of the group slowly started moving forward to search for Dig. Suddenly, in the middle of the bushes, they noticed a light. When they followed that light, it led them to an open area. The most shocking part was that right in the middle of that space stood the same staircase that had appeared at the beginning of the story. Lamps had been placed around the staircase, lighting up the area. But what were these strange things doing in the middle of a forest? And who had placed them there? No one had a clue. Curious and cautious, everyone moved closer to inspect the stairs. While George and Nick were checking the area around the stairs, they noticed a door behind them. Faint sounds were coming from inside the door, so Josh and Nick decided to go in. As soon as Josh stepped inside and opened the door, he fell down a hidden passage and injured his leg badly. Nick immediately followed to help him. Both of them managed to stand up somehow and were shocked to discover that they were inside an underground facility. But how was that even possible? They couldn't understand. As they followed the sounds deeper inside, they found a child. To their disbelief, it was Jesse, the same boy who had gone missing years ago. Jesse kept repeating the same warning over and over again. "Get out of here, or you'll end up trapped like me forever." He explained that the doors in this place kept changing on their own, making escape nearly impossible. But Josh remained confident and insisted that he knew the way out. Suddenly, they began to hear more sounds. And in the very next moment, the same terrifying creature that had killed Dig appeared before them. Seeing the creature, everyone started running toward the exit. Josh told Nick and Jesse to climb out first. But just as Josh was about to climb up himself, the creature grabbed him and killed him on the spot. Despite his efforts, Nick was unable to save his brother. He had no choice but to escape with Jesse. Outside, Rebecca, Jordan, and the others were shouting for Nick to hurry and escape. But Nick had gone into deep shock after witnessing his brother's death. And to make things worse, the terrifying creature had now broken through the door and emerged outside. Nick also began running far away with the others. While fleeing, he suddenly fell into a pit where the bodies of many people were lying. These were the dead bodies of people who had been killed by the creature. In fact, even Dig's body was there. Nick began screaming, and his voice helped the others locate him. They regrouped and tried to find a way out of there together. Jordan spotted a van nearby and called everyone toward it. One by one, they began climbing into the vehicle, but just then, the creature suddenly grabbed Rebecca. Nick tried to save her, but he failed. In a rush, they slammed the van door shut. Jesse, the young boy, was also inside the van at that moment. Nick felt overwhelmed with guilt. He felt that he could have saved Josh. But everything had happened so fast, he hadn't been able to do anything. Jesse then began revealing his story, how he had gotten trapped in this place many years ago. The most shocking revelation came when Nick realized he recognized Jesse. Years ago, Nick had a classmate named Jesse who had mysteriously gone missing. This boy looked exactly like him, confirming that he was the same Jesse from years ago. Jesse explained that once he had gone through that door, he never found his way back out. It felt like he had either time traveled or time had slowed down drastically for him, because he hadn't aged at all. Jesse had always feared the creature, which is why he never dared to approach the door again. But now they had no choice, they had to escape no matter what. Jordan formed a plan with Nick and, luckily, they found a gun. To distract the creature, Jordan bravely stepped forward and began firing at it repeatedly. But the bullets seemed to have no effect on the creature. It caught Jordan and began attacking her viciously. Nick was terrified and, in panic, shut the van's door. By now, almost all of his friends had been killed. Nick now wanted revenge for his dead friends, no matter what. Determined, he overcame his fear and took a gasoline cylinder with him toward the creature. He threw the cylinder at a distance and tried to lure the creature toward it. As soon as the creature reached near the cylinder, Nick set it on fire. The explosion that followed caused the creature to be engulfed in flames. Screaming in pain, it ran away into the forest. Later, when Nick and Jesse returned to the staircase, they noticed that it too was burning. Perhaps a sign that everything was finally returning to normal. The next day, the police arrived at the scene and rescued both Nick and Jesse. Jesse's mother was also called in. She had grown older, but her son Jesse still looked exactly the same. Overwhelmed with joy, she embraced him tightly. The authorities questioned Nick briefly and then let him go. After that moment, Nick and Jesse became good friends. They now shared a strange mystery that still remains unsolved. And with that, our story comes to an end.